How you doing, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to MechWarrior Online with Scout. Now, in the last few videos, we've taken a look at some classic mechs in MechWarrior Online, and that kind of got me thinking, are there any other mechs that I haven't really covered? And it surprised me that I got to look and I realized I've never really done a dedicated video on the Catapult, which is crazy because not only is it, a staple mech of Secession War era old school tabletop Battletech, but the Catapult was one of the original mechs in MechWarrior Online, and I've just somehow never gotten around to doing a video on it. So today I thought we'd take a look at the good old Catapult, and I will show you guys 3 different builds on 3 different variants of the Catapult, so that hopefully in this you can find at least one Catapult that you enjoy playing, because as old as this mech is, I gotta say, it's still a pretty solid mech and one that I do enjoy playing. So as we normally do, I'll show you guys the builds in the mech lab real quick, give you an idea of what I put on it, what I'm thinking. I'll breeze through the skill tree real quick, and then we'll dive into gameplay in each of these variants. And we're going to start off right here with the original, the OG, the Catapult C1, which, where else are you going to start? Which you can see here, I've done it up in a Ganyosha paint scheme for the Draconis Combine Mustard Soldier, DCMS stickers there on the back. Pretty nice looking mech. I love the way they've implemented it here. It used to be kind of long and skinny, the original model for it, and they made it look much more stout here in MechWarrior Online. Now, stock, the C1 comes with 2 LRM-15 single heat sinks. It's an old school mech, but it does get a 10% bonus to LRM velocity, a minus 15% missile cooldown perk, a 10% bonus to range, and a 5% laser duration reduction, as well as some structure bonuses. So that's going to shape how I chose to build my C1. Let's dive into the mech lab and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So you can see here in the mech lab that I've tried to stay really close to the roots of the Catapult C1. It really wasn't a bad mech. It's just that it used level 1 technology. So when you cram 2 LRM-15s into a 65-ton mech and you give it respectable speed and you give it 4 jump jets, you ain't got a whole lot of tonnage left over to play with. So what I've done with this thing is I went ahead and installed an XL95 because the shape of the Catapult's torso makes it significantly less vulnerable to side torso destruction because it's rounded and whatnot. So that's not as big of a risk. And then additionally, I doubled the heat sinks. And then with all the tonnage that was left over, I added an Artemis 4 fire control system to both my LRM-15 launchers. I added 2 additional tons of ammunition, and then I maxed out the armor. And what you get is a mech that is in every way improved over the original. I've even got Beagle Active Probe to help try to cancel out some of the electronic countermeasures that you see here in MechWarrior Online. But other than that, it's everything that the original is and better. Just a great, solid fire support platform. It's got plenty of ammunition, and now you can get in with those 4 medium lasers, and because you have armor, it's not such a big deal. Although that's definitely not where you want to be. Now let's take a look at the skills tree, and I'll show you guys what I have done with the skills for this mech. As you guys can see, I focused on the firepower tree, 45 points here, focusing on all of the missile quirks on the left-hand side of the tree, as well as all 3 laser duration perks here in the firepower tree, just going along with the fluff of the Catapult, which called for it to be a vehicle with strong offensive capabilities. Really, that's just the only reason I did that. I did put 24 points into the survival tree, and I went down the right side because this thing has structure bonuses. So I picked up armor hardening where I could, but I was also picking up a whole lot of structure where I could to magnify the structure bonuses, which are not great, but they're something that the mech already gets. Did not put any points in mobility, jump jets, or operations, but I did put 17 points into sensors. As you guys can see here, what I've done is I have picked up the radar deviation that I always get, but I was also trying to pick up as much target retention and target decay as I could, particularly target decay because it lets you hold those locks longer and land those LRM shots if you're trying to shoot at a little bit longer range. I have put 5 points into the auxiliary tree, which you can see here that I've focused on advanced salvos 1 and 2, as well as an additional consumable slot, because it kind of goes with my theme of this being a fire support platform, which is dedicated totally to putting damage on enemy mechs. So that's my build for the C1 Catapult, guys. Let's check this thing out and give it a spin.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
This is Command. Eliminate all enemies, no matter the cost.
All right, dropping on River City. This will be kind of interesting in an LRM mech. So let's see, what can I tell you guys about the C1 Catapult? Well, the C1 Catapult was produced by Hollis Incorporated on a special military contract limited production run for the Star League. It was manufactured between 2561 and 2563 by Hollis on the planet Cori, located in what would eventually become Capellan space. Interestingly, early versions of this mech actually had no close support weapons at all, just the two LRMs, but updated versions added the 4 medium lasers for close support and self-defense. Unfortunately, though, the Catapult contract was not renewed, and the production facility on Cori was all but destroyed early in the First Secession War. So that would make the mech
Target
very,
acquired.
very rare outside of the Capella
Artillery
Confederation,
strike
at least
online.
until the DCMS started production of the K2 variant on Al Nair. That was produced by Yori Mech Works, and it didn't start until, say,
Target spotted.
3033. So there was a long time where catapults were fairly rare, especially outside of the Capellan Confederation. And interestingly, it looks like we're going to push up to the north side of the map
Target
here
acquired.
and go this way. So that's kind of new and different. I wonder if that's going to hit. Yep, getting some hits here. So we'll continue to work this. Hey, we got another hit. But you know
New
what? Let's
target
tuck right in
acquired.
here and see if we can kind of use these buildings. It looks like we've got a little Raven here next to us, giving
New
us
target
ECM.
acquired.
We might be able to just sit here. I fired that a little bit too soon. And just rain hate at people and
New
just kind of
target
let this
acquired.
develop
Artillery strike
and play
online.
our role as a support mech. We can use that overhang
New
to the right for
target
cover. We just got to
acquired.
be careful that we don't allow the cover
New
to
target
interfere with my
acquired.
missiles. And we want to prioritize people that are closer. Stay with me, little Raven.
New
This
target
is
acquired.
actually working out well.
Artillery strike online.
He's going to be unhappy. There we go. So while we're just raining missiles here, that's a nice hit. The contract called for a defensive mech that was characterized as a close support vehicle
Artillery
with
strike
strong offensive capabilities. And for that reason, Hollis Incorporated armed the mech with twin Holly LRM-15 launchers. Now, if you're unfamiliar, Holly was one of the best LRM and really,
Target
ooh, there we get
destroyed.
a kill,
New target
LRM and
acquired.
SRM producers at the time. And that provided significant firepower for a mech of this weight during that time period. Now, the lack of ammunition, there was only 1 ton of ammo per launcher, wasn't really considered too much of a drawback, as the mech was intended to be a defensive mech that would operate close to supply lines. Still, the Catapult did have 2
New
other
target
notable drawbacks
acquired.
that were more concerning than the lack of ammunition, honestly. The first was
New
that the mech
target
was equipped with
acquired.
Anderson Propulsion Model 21 jump jets, and if used extensively, the Model 21s would break their conductive housings, and that
Artillery
would
strike
result in jet
online.
exhaust being vented. Ouch. Let's back up a
Target
little bit
spotted.
here. The jump jets would vent the jet exhaust directly inside the mech itself. Obviously, that's really bad. We're going to shift position here, and would result in sudden and unexpected overheating. A recall was issued by the Star League in 2566, and the
Artillery
Model
strike
21s were
online.
replaced with Anderson Propulsion Model 25 jump jets, which resolved the issue. Unfortunately, not all of the C1s in service, and we're going to have to take out. Hold on. Yeah, I want to take this Evan Jaguar out. We can't have this push come all the way up here to our nice little platform. Die.
Target
There we go.
destroyed.
Picked up a kill on a Cauldron Born. Now let's tuck back in here. Look at this guy coming right up
New
under
target
us.
acquired.
Get ready to medium laser him. And I'm stuck. Gonna have to turn. Looks like he's not able to
New
make it up
target
either. We do still
acquired.
have our buddy here. So we might just sit here and continue providing support. Although it's getting time to move up. 4 to 4. We're starting to kick off. Nice hits on the Evan Jag, but he's in cover now. Is he coming back out? Ah. Left building took up some of our missiles. Ouch. Our Raven moves, so we're going to have to move. We're going to get down. They can see us now. So we'll circle around the left here and try to provide
New target
fire support a little
acquired.
bit forward of where our buddy the Raven is at. But yeah, as I was saying, the replacement, look
New
at this guy.
target
Here's this
acquired.
Cardinal Born coming back again. The Model 25s
Target
solved
destroyed.
the overheating issue,
New
but
target
not
acquired.
all of the catapults in service actually got them replaced. And the end result was you had a lot of catapults running around during the Secession War that were still running the original defective Model 21 jump jets. Uh, Also of note, the Catapult actually didn't have a normal ejection system.
New
It had an
target
ejection
acquired.
system that featured a side-firing escape hatch rather than your typical eject out of the top, shoot straight up out of the
Target
roof.
destroyed.
And that had
New
a
target
tendency to
acquired.
injure mech warriors from time to time, but apparently it was
All
considered
attack all.
overall
Clean
to
up
be
this
more
assignment.
safe
Target
than a
destroyed.
top-mounted system. Take of that what you will.
Need assistance?
And it looks like we've about got this wrapped up. Only two more mechs, and
Target
they're down there by
acquired.
the Citadel. We'll see if we can get some shots into them at fairly long range. Got a lock on the Irby here. Now, Kerensky took the majority of the extant catapults with him during the Exodus, so the vast majority of those
Ammo
remaining fell into
depleted.
the hands of the Capellan Confederation when the Star League split, primarily because, well,
New
that's where
target
they were
acquired.
produced. Hausavian did make an attempt to capture several Capellan catapults on the planet Ward. That
Fuel
was
at
in the
25%.
autumn of 2904. And after a number of long, grueling battles, they did manage to capture several badly damaged catapults for the armed forces of the Federated Sons. Interestingly, Steiner also possessed a number of catapults, most of which were attached to the Sky Rangers 4th Regiment on Bea. And in 2990, Red Jack Ryan led a raid on the world, resulting in the destruction of
Target
one
destroyed.
catapult, one being destroyed, and another one being found unaccounted for,
Good job,
which would
soldier.
lead credence to the later rumors that the pirate leader actually had a functioning catapult in his arsenal of mechs. So, kind of interesting. Now, we will get into the House Karita side of it, but we'll do that for the next video. As you can see here, 2 kills, 7 assists, 2 solo kills, 2 KMDDs, 649 points of damage, and we did this exactly the way the catapult was built to do. We stayed in second line, we rained LRMs, we picked up some kills, and then when the match started to close, we closed in, used the armor which we added, and our medium lasers to mop up. So real solid game for the Catapult C1. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a little run out in the Catapult C1. And I think that shows you it is what I told you it is. It's a solid mech. It can fire at pretty much any range band, all the way up to 1,000 meters or more with LRMs, all the way up to point blank with its 4 medium lasers. And it's not going to do anything earth shattering in any of those range bands, but it will perform solidly and it won't let you down. And it's just a good solid mech that I enjoy playing from time to time. So let's take a look at something entirely different in the Catapult line. We're going to see what the Caretans did with this mech. That's right, we're going to take a look at the Catapult K2. So here is my K2, which you can see I've done in a sort of light paint scheme. And right away, you can tell what this mech is meant to do. If you're not familiar with it at all, the K2 was meant to be a PPC carrier going all the way back to the Secession Wars. And what I've done is I've stuck with that. Now, it does have 2 ballistic hardpoints. You can see them here and here, which are tucked in nicely into the torso. 2 additional hardpoints here. And for a long time, I ran this thing with AC-10s and medium lasers because a lot of people will shoot up here at your ears to take out your primary weapons. And if they're not familiar with the layout of the K2, they'll assume that your autocannons are up here and they'll take your arms off and at the end of the day only take out medium lasers when your primary weapons are down here. Now, what changed that was the introduction of Civil War tech. Right, PPCs were kind of hit or miss. Hit registration wasn't all that great. They were hot, and you could make a real argument up until fairly recently that PPCs and MechWarrior Online were not really worth it. However, the introduction of Civil War tech gave us, you guess it, heavy PPCs for the inner sphere, and that kind of changed everything. And since this is a really good looking mech, as you can see here, like I got a little Karita on my ERP on my heavy PPC barrels there. It's just a cool looking mech when you build it out the way it was designed. And yeah, you can guess what I did with this thing. So let's take a look at it in the mech lab and I'll show you guys exactly how I did it. So yeah, it doesn't take a genius to figure out with the introduction of heavy PPCs, that is exactly what I wanted to put in a 65-ton mech that was built to be a PPC carrier. So what we've done is I've gone with an XL260, which keeps my top speed at 64.8 kilometers per hour, which is respectable for a heavy mech. But that XL260 gives me the weight to drop a heavy PPC into each arm. We keep the medium laser and the machine guns that were mounted in each left and right side torso. I've got 1 ton of machine gun ammo. I divided into half-ton increments and put 1 half-ton in each leg. We've got a whole lot of extra heat sinks to try and keep this thing cool. I even had a ton left over, which allowed me to put a 1-ton targeting computer, which I've mounted in the head. Pretty simple and straightforward. So let's take a look at the skill tree. The first thing you'll notice is I do have 20 points in the firepower tree, but I haven't really picked up, there's no laser duration. It's only got 2 medium lasers, so I didn't see the point in doing that. I don't have any of the skills that you normally see people going for in the firepower tree, and that's because the only thing I was concerned with in this tree was velocity. The faster those PPCs go, the easier it is to lead targets, the easier it is to hit with a weapon system that's already still a little quirky with hit registration here in MechWarrior Online. So really that's all I'm focused on here in this tree is velocity, a little bit of range where I can pick it up, and some heat gen where I can get it. I focus on the left side of the survival tree because I do want as much armor as I can pick up, but I haven't focused here too much. What I've done though is I've taken those points and I've put them here in the mobility tree because like we talked about a couple videos ago, all of my backup weapons are in my torsos, right? My medium lasers, my machine guns, everything's in the torso. And if something gets up next to you, the 65-ton catapult is a fairly big mech, and if it's a little mech that's next to you, you're going to have problems getting your guns down low enough to engage. Even though you've got the medium lasers and the machine guns for defense, you can't depress them. So I've invested some points here into torso pitch to try to resolve that problem. Now, after the firepower tree, the vast majority of my points went into operations, obviously so I could max out cool run and heat containment. I've picked up 60% radar deprivation, which is pretty much par for the course, and I focused on 2 cool shots and an artillery strike in the auxiliary tree. So that's it for the skill loadout. Let's take this K2 out on the battlefield, and I'll show you guys what this Civil War era infused build can do.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hey, good old forest colony. I love this map. It's a little bit harder to see on this map though than I remember it being back in the day. Am I the only one? Do you guys notice that? It seems, I don't know, like foggier and difficult to see at long range, more difficult so than it used to be. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the K2 catapult because this is kind of interesting. Now, House Karita did have some catapults following the Exodus and the start of the Secession Wars, but they lost the majority of them. They lost them in combat with House Davian on the planet Hoth, and thereafter the DCMS reported having only a single catapult amongst the entire roster of all its active units. Those of you who are curious, it was one catapult that was apparently in Brian's Legion. Now, the interesting thing about that is you'll notice it specifically says among its active units. Look at this guy right here walking right in front of us. Get some good shots there. So you can read into that a little bit because there are, of course, other units other than its active units. You got the training cadres, some of the research units and whatnot. So consider that the DCMS got the majority of their catapults from Diron. Right when the Secession Wars kicked off, as they're securing all of their territory, they secure Diron and they come into some catapults, presumably that were left there, couldn't be taken by Kerensky for whatever reason. So it stands to reason, if you then lose the few that you have, or the majority of them, in the battle for Hoth with House Davian. Look at this guy. Is he actually going to come for us? He is. You're not going to win this fight, Mr. Jaegerman. My guns poke bigger holes than yours. And there we go. Pick up our first kill. And I think we just need to continue sitting here and firing into these guys as they try to push into our main body there, forward and left of this Victor in the valley. Squeak that shot there. But it doesn't take much to imagine that if you had lost the majority of the few catapults that you had to House Davian, that you would hoard the rest of them and try to figure out either a way to remake them, make more of them, make them better, or some combination of all three.
New target acquired.
And I would submit to you that that's what the DCMS was doing, right? Because we know that they put the catapult back into production in 3033, but they did it as the K2 variant. Now, why did they do that? Well, the Fourth Secession War is over, but the Cretans are a lot of things, but foolish is not one of them. They know that the newly formed Federated Commonwealth is coming. They went after the Capellans in the Fourth Secession War. They're naturally going to come for the Combine next. So they did several things to prepare for the War of 3039. They gave the Free Rosselhog Republic their independence They were tired of fighting with them. They always wanted to rebel against the Combine anyway. So they went ahead and gave them their independence to create a buffer state with the Lyrans. They also tried to form, actually, they didn't try, they successfully formed an alliance with Comstar, right? So that gave them access to technologies and mechs that they didn't have before. Look at this guy up here on the high ground. We're going to punish him a little bit. And they also started creating a lot of new mechs, right? The Daboku, which would eventually become the Mauler, the 1A9 Charger, the Hatamoto Chi, all designs that were ahead of their time. Quite frankly, I think I have every reason to believe Comstar helped with at least some of them. All of this was in preparation for the War of 3039. They knew they were coming. And when you look at the K2, especially in that context, it becomes very obvious what they were trying to do. They were trying to create a budget-friendly Warhammer, and that's essentially what this is. And you can see that's essentially what we used it for in this game. We just hammered people with heavy PPCs, stayed in the middle, and got a pretty decent result for our trouble. 2 kills, 9 assists, 549 points of damage. Pretty decent game, and really that's the history behind the K2. At the end of the day, it's a budget Warhammer in preparation for the War of 3039. So, hope you guys enjoyed that and that gameplay. Pretty solid game, and I do really like this mech.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, one game in the K2 Catapult, and I really enjoy this Catapult. It's probably my favorite of the three that I regularly run. I will say, though, the games that I get in it are real spiky. Sometimes I'll get 5 kills, but only like 250, 300 points of damage tops, because you're doing 30-point pinpoint hits to a location. It's not uncommon to kill a mech without doing a whole lot of damage to it. Other times I've got games where I did, I think one of my highest is 747 points of damage, but I didn't really get any kills. Just knocked a bunch of limbs off and stuff like that, and opened big holes that then other people with machine guns came in and finished. So it's real kind of squirrely how this works out, but I do enjoy it, and I enjoy playing the mech. So let's take a look at the last catapult I want to show you guys, which is something completely different from these two. And for that, we're going to go to the hero mech. We're going to take a look at the Jester. All right, guys, here's my Jester, which you can see I've played with the paint a little bit. It comes stock with it's called the Jester, right? So it's got this real loud, like purple, pink, and weirdness striped all over it, and then that big Cheshire cat face. So I figured, what the hell? I went ahead and had one actual camouflage mech, but I kept the Cheshire face, put some eyes on it, and I had to slap some Karita on it there somewhere. But the reason that I'm showing you guys the Jester is because it's a mech that you don't really see too often. There are several special, if you will, different catapults. You got the C2, which was the loyalty one. You got the Butterbee, which a lot of people like running. The Jester, as memory serves, was the first of the unique, the hero variants of the catapult. And it kind of caught on real quick, and then it died real quick, and people don't really run it. And I think that's a shame, because as you're going to see, it's a really well-rounded mech. So let's take a look at the mech lab, and I'll show you guys what I have done with my Jester. So as you guys can see here, the Jester is made for energy boating, and that's what I've kept to. Like, there's no reason to change something that works. It's got 2 large lasers, obviously mounted up in those high energy points in the ears, if you will, and that's backed up by 4 medium lasers, 1 in each side torso and then 2 in the center torso. Now, one of the things I like about the Jester is it has 2 AMS hard points. So I've gone ahead and utilized both of those, 1 AMS in each side torso, and then I've got a 1.5 tons of ammunition, one that I hit up in the head and then a 1/2 ton in the leg. Interestingly, because we're mounting so many heat sinks to back all this up, and we have all that different equipment, we don't have enough space to run a light or an XL engine, but we really don't need it, because even with all of this, I can run a standard 275, which gives me up to 68.5 kilometers per hour, which is, I find, is fast enough for a heavy mech. I've got my 4 jump jets for mobility, and I've got a standard engine, so I'm really difficult to cripple and take out. And what you're left with is just a really well-rounded design, much like the C1, only instead of LRMs, now I'm using laser vomit, so I don't have to worry about running out of ammunition. I don't have the range, but I do have, I think, more, I don't want to say pinpoint damage because they're trace weapons, but if you aim well, you don't have to worry about LRMs spreading your damage out everywhere, if that makes sense, the comparison I'm trying to make for you. So it's just kind of a different flavor of the same thing. Very reliable, very mobile, just good all around heavy mech. So let's take a look at the skills trees, and I'll show you guys what I've done with the skills. So the first thing you guys will notice right away is I don't even have this thing mastered. To me, it works just fine. And so in the scheme of mechs that I want to get mastered, this actually falls pretty low because it works just fine. I did go straight to all 4 nodes of laser duration because it is a laser vomit build. The less time your lasers burn, the less time you're looking at the enemy, the less time they can accurately shoot you back. So I do think that's important, and you're going to want to pick those up relatively quickly. Now, I have dumped 20 points into operations. This is actually where I started. Any build, guys, any build where you're relying on energy weapons to do the majority of your damage, they're not restricted by ammunition, they're restricted by heat. Your heat capacity and how much you can dissipate heat quickly. And it just makes sense, right? If you're going to have an energy heavy build, pick up full cool run and full heat containment. It should probably be your first investment, even before laser duration, quite honestly. As you can see, I'm going down the sensors tree. I will eventually get my 60% radar deprivation, and I've already picked up my 2 cool shots and my artillery strike. Not so much for the artillery strike, but for the two cool shots. Those are very important to the build, and I may actually pick up cool shot cooldown as well, just because it'll help me get back into the fight faster. But even with the minimum amount of points I've got invested in this thing, I find that it runs just fine, and it's a lot of fun to play. So let's take the Jester out on the battlefield, and I'll show you guys what it's capable of.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
All right, guys. Well, I've been trying to get a game like Alpine Peaks or Polar Highlands or something, so I can show you guys the full capabilities of the mech, which really you're not showing if you're not showing the utility of the dual AMS. But of course, I can't get a game on one of those nice LRM maps where the dual AMS would really come into its own. And, and even better, we're here on Solaris City, so yeah, what are you gonna do? Just keep in mind that your match score would be a lot higher if you are on one of those maps, because if you get these dual AMS rocking and shooting down a lot of LRMs, that of course helps your score tremendously. But it looks like we're going to be relying on our ability to skirmish here in Solaris City, and also the jump jets, which are a tremendous asset to this mech. Even in this particular map, just having 4 jump jets
Fuel at
gives us the ability to do
25%.
things like this to get around slow assault mechs, get up on and off of the roads and whatnot. And
Fuel
it's
at
a real boon to the
0%.
Jester to have 4 jump jets. And
Fuel
when you
at
take it away,
25%.
when you go down to
Sorry.
1 or 2, I really think you're taking something away from the mech. You can kind of get away with 2, but I don't like it. I prefer the utility and the mobility of having all 4 of them, so I can get up places way easier. Because, jumping in MechWarrior Online is not exactly a precision thing. Obviously, there's no great history behind the Jester because it's an MWO
Target
specific
acquired.
hero mech. But, it's kind of interesting. You would have thought going into 3050, they would have done something with the C1 similar to what I did, the LRM-15s with Artemis, XL, and whatnot. Actually, they went a completely different direction. You guys remember I was playing with that Raven? It's kind of neat because that's actually how they went in the fluff. The Capellan Confederation had come out with the Raven, which had, there's people over here.
Target
Oh, there's a
acquired.
guy under there. The Raven had Nag, Nag. It had Narc and Tag in Guardian ECM.
Enemy base is being
And
captured.
so, obviously having Narc beacons and Tag is a little bit over the top. The two don't generally work together. But the thing is, the tag was not for LRMs. The tag was for Artemis 4, essentially artillery, laser guided artillery. We call them copperheads. Um, but they did not have a mech at that time period that mounted Arrow 4. It was all vehicles, which are extremely vulnerable. So when they updated the catapult for 3050, of course it was House Lau that did it, they actually added Arrow 4 in place of all the
Target
LRM.
acquired.
So you had one
New
single
target
Arrow 4 launcher
acquired.
and then 4 medium lasers. Kind of an interesting build. Not one that I ever played with. There were better ways, I think, to get Arrow 4. And we have managed to sneak up behind this Annihilator. I'm thinking about running away, but I don't know. I kind of feel like we might have him between a rock and a hard place. I came around here to try to help the team with these mediums and lights. I wasn't really expecting to find this Annihilator till he popped up on the minimap, but now that we've got him, I feel like we've kind of got the Annihilator in a pickle because he's slow. He doesn't move well. Maybe I can jump over here on this house. I just need to get a better line on him without giving him the chance to wail on me with all those LB2s.
Target spotted.
He had his back to us there, but he's turning around. You can see we've got him in a pickle because he's taking fire from both sides. Yeah, I'm not backing off this time.
Target
There we go.
destroyed.
And we pick up the kill on a 100-ton Annihilator. And now we go back the other way. If you take a look at the mini-map, there's a heavier or medium mech here in the alley.
Target
Who's kind of
acquired.
giving my team fits because he's in the middle. It's a heavy, it's Eb and Jag. So we're going to help the team take this guy out, and then that will clear him from their rear so they can focus on collapsing on the rest of our opponents.
Target
Come on.
destroyed.
Aww. I wanted that kill too, but I'm not going to get it. So now you can see we're clear here in Charlie 5, and we can move up and right and just collapse on everybody that's kind of in the corner of Charlie 4 there. See, now I could have turned around and gone back the other way, but I saw this big dude turn around, and I don't kind of want to really be out there by myself. I think it's better to stick with a team. It's 4-2, but games have been lost by people being overconfident, so I'm just going to stick with the majority of the team here. And we're going to pop off here. Whoa, guys to the right. I was going to shoot off to the left, but then all these guys showed up. This may have been a little bit overly aggressive. Oh, a little bit of team damage there. There's a mech to my right.
Target destroyed.
Yeah, Warhammer. Can we get the kill? Oh, he's almost dead. Go, go, go. No, forward, forward. Oh. No, well. I was trying to get that Atlas, but I think I shaved that guy's arm. I can't see real well. Go to night vision here.
Target acquired.
I got to get these pillars out of the way. We got to hit his left torso. Drifted to center there too, because we're both moving. He's down.
Target destroyed.
And we've used our armor pretty well. We're down to 61%. But we still got all our internal structure left in our center torso. And it's 10-4. Looks like this is going to be a rout. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pick up a kill here or not. Urban Mac, maybe? Oh, clip that guy's arm just a little. Ah, too low, too low. You see, he almost got under my guns. That's why I kind of been picking up torso pitch lately. He almost got under all my medium lasers. But yeah, that's game. And not a spectacular game, but yeah, 1 kill, 6 assists, 452 points of damage, 200 and some taken. And you just see it's just a real solid mech. It doesn't overheat, puts out a good amount of damage, good flexibility, and yeah, I like the Jester.
So there you go, guys. Pretty solid game in an unmastered Jester. One thing I forgot to point out earlier, and I was thinking of it, I was trying really hard to get you guys like a Polar Highlands game in the Jester so you could see the dual AMSs go to work. It just didn't pan out that way. And that in turn made me think that I want to ensure that I point out to you guys, if you're going to run it with the dual AMSs, as you're picking up your skills, make sure you go ahead and pick up both AMS overloads, because if you're going to invest the tonnage and the space to get 2 anti-missile systems, you may as well get AMS overload. But as you can see, a total package, this is a really great, solid, well-rounded mech. It doesn't excel at anywhere except for maybe team play. Like, you will always be able to contribute something to your team unless you're at very, very, very long range. And even then, there are inevitably going to be some LRMs flying, and you contribute to your team by keeping them safe with your dual anti-missile systems. So again, it's just a well-rounded mech that I really enjoy, which is really something you could say about the Catapult line, or at least the 3 that I've showed you. They're just solid mechs that have stood the test of time, and they may not be the rock stars of the 60, 65 ton range that they once were, particularly when they were the only ones around. but they're still solid mechs that perform well, and you can have a lot of fun in them. So with that, folks, I'm going to call the video a wrap. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really does help the channel, and I enjoy hearing from you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.